The great Jim Harrick returns to the Marching to Madness college basketball podcast as one of the legendary and most successful people to coach the game. Coach Harrick has a 67% winning percentage as he took teams to the NCAA Tournament 17 times in 23 seasons. Of course, his UCLA Bruins won the 1995 NCAA Tournament, and I decided to put the Bruins floor behind me. Coach, it's a pleasure, man.
Ken, nice to talk to you, buddy. Good to see you again and be on.
You obviously, it's hard to believe it's almost been 30 years since that national championship at UCLA. So, how have your former players on the team kind of reached out maybe as you guys left the Seattle Kingdom with a trophy after a win over a really good Arkansas team?
Ken, on our 25th anniversary, we had a Zoom call with 18 guys on the call. One guy was in Czechoslovakia. One guy was in Japan. One guy was in another country. Two were in New York. Two were in Seattle. But they were all on there. And we had one of the great nights of my life. I mean, we everybody went through everything and talked about their families and what's going on in their life. And then the last hour and a half, they just kind of ragged on each other and kept saying, "Coach, you didn't know this, but." And I said, "Well, I don't want to know now." We had a lot of fun. It was really, really good. I get to see a lot of them a lot of times. They always reach out on, certainly on birthdays and Father's Days and Christmas. And so, Ken, when you win a championship, there's a bond there that you really can't break. It's just it bonds you together for life, and it's really special. But I've been that way, I had the number one high school team in America in '73 at Morningside High School in Inglewood, California, and I still talk to six or eight of those guys. And my wife and I took a cruise, went to the Cayman Islands, and one of our players is down there as a guide. And he took me all around. It's been 50 years, Ken.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of reward you get out of it. I got a great group of guys from Pepperdine that I have lunch twice a year together at my golf club. And so, keeping together, and that's a bonus you get for coaching.
Yeah, I know your teams. I remember the Pepperdine team. I remember your game, I think, where you played NC State in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, correct. They made a 30 for 30 and on Balvano in that team, and we were prominent in that because we had them beat, didn't win. But a lot of teams had them beat through his run and didn't win. So
yeah,
that was good. Yeah,
and of course your Rhode Island Rams there against Stanford. I thought you got robbed in that game. I mean, I remember it well.
the hardest game we ever had to lose. I agree with you. I think we got a bad call at the end of the game that really hurt us, but I sit here and I had two magnificent years at Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. And love that place. So, life's good. You look back now at the journey.
Yeah.
The journey you've been on. And I've been on I had a great run.
Obviously, your analysis of the high post offense was one of your many well-known coaching amenities. How did you put your hands on building your version of that offense to make it fit into your coaching style?
Well, really, it's Coach Wooden's offense. And once they started shortening the shot clock, I changed it from what we call in basketball a two-guard front out front to a one-guard front out front. But it's really the same offense, the same stuff, and you do the same things. It's probably one pass away from the triple post that Phil Jackson ran. It's not the only offense in the world, Ken, just the best.
I got you. How have you seen this offense transition over periods of time?
Well, it's won 13 national championships, and I don't know that anybody else could ever say that.
Yeah.
Not a lot of guys use it now. Larry Farmer did, Mark Godfrey did, I did. Of course, Denny Crum and Myers, one of my ex-players, Jonas Hayes at Georgia State, is running it now and loves it and getting good results from it. And really, again, you got to have good players. But what it does is get you a good shot. Yeah. And you got to make it. Yeah. And I tell my players, I'm going to get you a shot. And I could get them a shot. And then they got to make it. Most of the guys I looked at today, they tell their players, hey, get your own shot.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys can't do that. And I don't like to play that way. I don't like to shoot off the dribble and score off the dribble. I like to score off the pass, off the assist, off the extra pass. I think teams that do that usually win.
You look at college basketball, we're getting good matchups here early in November. Auburn and Alabama mean more than football now in the SEC. Gonzaga is off to a 4-0 start with a really deep bench. And then UCLA, USC, Oregon, and Washington. I can't believe the Pac-12 is not there anymore, but they could all be challengers in the Big Ten.
It remains to be seen. I don't know who's good in the Big Ten right now. I've watched just a couple weeks, and I saw the Duke and Kentucky, and I know both those guys are good. I know St. John's is good, and I haven't seen a Big Ten team as good as those three yet. But I haven't watched a lot, so I don't know. I just don't know. It's too early for me to put my hands on everything like that.
I don't think all sports in general will benefit from this, what I thought was a listless loss of the Pac-12. That didn't have to happen, in my mind.
Well, times have changed and money's changed, but I think, in my opinion, football ought to go off and do its own thing and leave the other sports alone, because when you're asking UCLA and SC's sports, all of them to fly across country and do this, and usually football and basketball have private planes, but I don't know if the other sports do. I don't know what they're going to do. I shouldn't really say, because I really don't know. But if you look and see how many miles a UCLA football team has traveled, they've died in the last second half of a couple games, flying cross country, and I used to talk to Bobby Huggins at West Virginia, and he always said, by the end of the year, his guys was worn out. Mm-hmm. He'd go to Baylor and come back home, and then go to Lubbock and come back home, and go to Austin and come back. I mean, that's a long trip. I mean, they've made it crazy. The leagues are crazy. BYU is in a league with Central Florida.
Yeah.
Utah and BYU in it with Central Florida. They got to go down there and play basketball or something. I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they went down there and played football and beat them. But
yeah,
I mean, it's ludicrous what the NCAA's let happen for college sports. Ludicrous.
I never knew Stanford and Cal were on the Atlantic coast.
Yeah, crazy.
As you look now, what are maybe some different strategies and on-court proficiencies that you have noticed as we start the third week of the season?
Well, it seems to me that everybody has a plan. Yeah. And then they go a couple of weeks. If it doesn't work, they've got to adjust that plan. And a lot of teams now are starting fast. They want a fast break. They want to run. They want to play a speed game. And that works out good until, maybe you can't do that. And so what you're constantly doing is like my golf game. You're constantly making adjustments throughout the season and throughout, the course of time. You're making adjustments to make your team better. I remember our national championship, we made a big adjustment in January And then late February, we made another big adjustment, and it just made our team better. And players evolve. Some guys get better. Some guys, some things happen. You look out there and you see this and see that, and you constantly got to observe and see what's going on with your basketball team.
Going to the Bruins here, you look at UCLA. So far, the Bruins look like their defense will be a major factor in them being a challenger. And then, of course, they have two really strong transfers there in Kobe Brown, who came over from USC, and then Sky Clark, who was at Louisville in Illinois.
They got another guy from Oregon State that's their best player.
Oh, yeah, Bilodeau. Tyler.
Yeah, he's their best player.
Yeah.
I haven't really watched them yet. Every night they played, I've gone to a game out here and try to see so many teams play. I got some guys that are coaching, and I like to watch them play. So I've missed them, but I will get to see them play soon. And I sit here, and the thing that amazes me is I don't know a lot of the guys on their team. That's what's happened to college basketball. Fans and people in the city, they don't know who the players are. They don't know who they are. They're all transfers. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
I've had to go get my own recipe of things. I get kenpom.com, so I watch, the depth charts on there. I use Stat Broadcast to watch the stats of the game I'm seeing, and then I go into Sports Reference, college basketball, so I can see, okay, a little bit about these players. I've never had to do that before.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of times I don't know the players I'm watching. And the NCAA is ruled out loyalty, any kind of loyalty to your school, to your city, to the fans, to the student body. And it's just, I don't know. Frustrating.
And it's all spelled NCAA. I've said that for years, and I'll say it again.
Yeah.
Because we've got the greatest sport going, and I agree with you. That football needs to be its own, and let's put basketball and some of these non-revenue sports out there in the picture.
Yeah. You're cutting them all out, and it's going to hurt us down the road.
Oh, definitely.
Plus, we got to put a cap on the NIL. They just can't be running rampant. Where one school spends $10 million, one school spends $2 million. That's just crazy stuff. You can't do that. No. Major League Baseball and football and basketball, they have a salary cap. NCAA doesn't have a salary cap. Don't get me started on that. That's not what we're talking about.
I was just going to say they need a cap for themselves, period. Yeah. Tyler Bilodeau. And, of course, Eric Daly Jr. comes over from Oklahoma State. Now, what do you see as the upside maybe to those power forwards?
Well, the first guy's a good player. He's really good. He scored good for him. But they put their hat on defense, and you got to play defense to play for them. So I don't know. I haven't watched them enough to really measure. I will see them, though, this year.
When you look at the NBA, let's move there right now. The Clippers move into their new arena, the Intuit Dome. Discuss your perspective of that new arena, as well as the relevance of being able to finally move away and out from under the Lakers' shadow.
Well, it's a beautiful, beautiful arena.
Yeah.
And Steve Ballmer's a wonderful guy, and he does so much for the community and everything. And I'm perplexed that they didn't pay Paul George. They went all this way, and now they've given him up. Tyronn Lue does a great job coaching. I mean, they really guard you, and they play together, and he's got them playing, but Kawhi Leonard's not playing, and there'll be 500 without him, and that's being generous to him, I think, because it's a stars league. You've got to have some stars, and you went all this way the last 5 years with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and you build a new arena, and you give it up. And maybe they didn't want to pay him what they paid Kawhi, but it seems to me they probably should have. But I don't know. That's not my business.
I got you. Hey, coach, as far as the end zone there where the fans sit, they said there were, from what I heard, there were 51 rows and the fans could filter in those. Is that right? And pretty much sit wherever they choose.
I don't know the answer to that. I haven't been down there. I'm going to probably go to the Gonzaga UCLA game down there and be my first time down there.
As you think of working for Coach Wooden, what were some of his distinguishing characteristics that made you decide to move forward as a coach? And then how did you implement those in your programs?
Well, I never coached with him.
Mm-hmm.
I was a director of his basketball camp, and I'd watched him since I was in high school real closely and loved everything he did, incorporated everything he did. Most of my game was John Wooden game. Mm-hmm. And he was such a great teacher of basketball. His program was predicated on fundamentals, conditioning, and team play. You shared the ball. The open man shot the shot. You're in great condition. And he was fundamentally so sound. And, he had a philosophy, once the game started, he said, my job's over. And he wasn't up and down the sidelines and calling timeout, none of that stuff. He just let them play. Yeah. They got in trouble, he let them work it out. And boy, they were so good through those years at the end. It was unbelievable.
It was like in elementary school at the end of his career, but I remember him clear as day. He was such a phenomena, I think, and he was the face of college basketball then.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, he won 10 national championships in 12 years, and that'll never be done again. He's the greatest college basketball coach that ever lived, in my opinion.
We lost one of the great UCLA Bruins and one of the great color analysts in Bill Walton.
Bill was a wonderful guy. Wonderful guy. He was so good for everybody, good to people. I love Bill Walton, and he made a legacy for himself. And you were a little young, but I'm going to tell you something. He was a great player, Ken. He was a great player. If he hadn't had a lot of foot injuries and things, he'd have been one of the top maybe 10 players ever played the game.
I was 11 years old in 1977 when he took the Trailblazers to the championship with guys on there like Maurice Lucas, Dave Twardzik, Bobby Gross.
Lionel Hollins.
I used to love to watch Lionel Hollins.
They were really, really good. Bill Walton was one of the greatest passers of any center that's ever played. Mm-hmm. And boy, if you played with Bill Walton, you loved to play with the guy. He was phenomenal.
He actually went to law school at Stanford.
Yes, he did. He thought he was going to be a lawyer. He should have been, because he could talk his way out of anything. And he was an interesting man.
It feels like when you look at the NBA, you've got more challengers maybe than you ever had for a title.
I look at the standings right now, and there's a lot of haves and there's a lot of middle guys and there's a lot of have-nots, and that's the way college is, and that's the way it is almost every year. Certainly the Celtics are going to be there at the end of the year. Looks like the Cavaliers will be there also. What a job Steve Kerr's done with the Golden State Warriors. I think J.J. Redick's done a great job with the Lakers so far. Phoenix, if they stay healthy, they're not healthy right now, but Budenholzer done a great job with them. It'll be interesting to watch and kind of fun. And it's interesting, the Nuggets were so good with the year they won, then they lose one guy like Brown, and it really hurt them. They never recovered from that. And so I don't know. I just like to watch. I'm a fan now.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I've always been a fan, and I really wish. Here's what I wish. I wish I would have gotten on the phone like 40 years ago and said, Coach Harrick, I'll come clean the restrooms or something if you'll just let me be your volunteer assistant. I might have made it.
We did have volunteers assistants for years when I first started coaching.
Yeah.
Could have had, yeah. It tough business, but I had a great run.
You had an awesome run, Coach. It's always a pleasure. I can't wait to talk to you again.
Let's do it towards the end of the year when I have a little more knowledge about who's playing, who can play, who can't play, and everything.
All right? We definitely will. And thanks for your time tonight. Yeah.
Okay, Ken, my pleasure. Great talking to you, buddy.
Great talking to you, my friend.